Retirement planning may feel like a far-off concern, especially if you're in your 20s or your 30s, but the reality is the earlier that you start, the less daunting it becomes. I mean, imagine having to save $1 million. That sounds pretty intimidating, right? But if you start at 25 and just save $400 a month, assuming a 7% annual return, then you're going to hit that goal by the time you're 65. But if you wait until 45, now you'll need to save nearly $1,800 a month to reach that same amount. This is the power, time, and compounding, and it's why starting today can make future not only secure, but abundant. On top of the intimidation factor, retirement planning can just be downright confusing, leaving a lot of people feeling overwhelmed. This video will be a simple breakdown, everything that you need to know about retirement planning, from understanding your current financial situation to investing tips so that you can leave with a clear action plan. If we haven't met yet, I'm Jonathan Rankin, the owner of Theorem Wealth Management. We're a retirement planning firm, and we've been helping people across the country plan and execute their retirement goals for going on 20 years now. Now let's dive in and start with why retirement planning matters now and why the urgency. You see, the first reason that it makes sense right now is the compounding effect. You see, compounding is often referred to as the eighth wonder of the world, and for good reason. See, when you save money and you invest it, your money doesn't just grow from your contributions, it grows on the interest or returns that you earn. So over time, these returns start earning returns on themselves, creating this snowball. For instance, a $10,000 investment at 7% doubles roughly every 10 years, turning into $20,000, then 40, and so on. You see, starting early gives your money more time to double multiple times. Now, the next reason you should be focusing on your retirement plan is the cost of waiting. You see, a study by the National Institute on Retirement Security found that over 66% of millennials have nothing saved for retirement. And many cite reasons like student debt or living paycheck to paycheck, but delaying even 5 years can significantly increase the amount that you'll need to save. For example, someone who starts saving at 35 instead of 30 needs to save an additional $150 a month to reach the same goal by 65 years old. Now, the last reason for the urgency to start now is the psychological benefits of starting early, because starting young isn't just a financial advantage, it's a mental one. So you're building a habit of saving early, and that gives you a peace of mind and creates a sense of control over your financial future. It's like planting a tree. You know, the earlier that you plant it, the more time that it has to grow. So where do you even start? I mean, tackling every aspect of retirement planning is impossible to do in one single video. So make sure you subscribe to the channel so we can help you along your journey. But the thing you could do to get started right now is you've got to understand your financial situation. You have to get an understanding of where you are and who you are as an investor. And do this before you act. You've got to assess. So let's look at 3 simple steps. Step 1, you've got to assess your income and expenses. You've got to take a detailed look at your monthly cash flow. And there are apps out there that can help you, or you can use a trusty old Excel sheet. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the average American spends $63,000 annually, with nearly 25% going towards housing. So identifying where your money is going allows you to spot areas to cut back and redirect towards retirement. Now, one way to do this is to establish a budget. And I know nobody likes a budget, but it's extremely important when creating a long-term plan. In fact, a solid budget ensures that you're consistently saving without overspending. You might want to even consider the 50-30-20 rule, which can be a help framework. And that says that 50% of your money goes towards needs for housing and food, 30% for wants, so this is your travel or your dining out, and 20% for savings and debt repayment. Now, step 2, when you're just getting started, is to identify your financial goals. So your retirement goals dictate how much you'll need to save. So think about it. When do you want to retire? Early retirement means you're going to have to save more aggressively. What kind of lifestyle do you envision? You know, if you're traveling frequently versus living a quiet, low-cost life, do you have any legacy goals? Do you want to pass money to your family or donate to causes that you care about? These answers are going to help you estimate what your number is and how much money you'll need to have saved by retirement. And a good rule of thumb is the 4% rule, which suggests that you'll need 25 times your annual expenses to safely withdraw 4% each year without running out of money. Final step in getting started is you have got to determine what your risk tolerance is. See, risk tolerance refers to how much volatility you're comfortable with in your investments. See, younger investors can afford to take more risks because they have time to recover from downturn. For instance, in 2008, the S&P dropped nearly 40%, but those who stayed invested saw their portfolios recover and grow significantly in the following decade. There are risk tolerance tools out there that can help guide you in determining your risk tolerance and what you want to accomplish and who you are as an investor. It's now time to start putting things in motion with what we call the 3 key retirement pillars. Now, the first pillar is saving. See, saving for retirement is the cornerstone of any financial plan. It's the act of consistently setting aside money that will eventually fund your lifestyle when you're no longer working. So let's break down the tools that can help you achieve this goal, starting with employer-sponsored plans and individual retirement. You see, the most common is a 401k. 401k is a retirement savings plan offered by many employers employers in the US, and it allows employees to contribute a portion of their paycheck to a tax-advantaged investment account. Now, there are a number of reasons why 401ks are a powerful tool. First one is those tax advantages. You see, contributions made to a traditional 401k are made with pre-tax dollars, meaning that they reduce your taxable income. For example, if you earn $60,000 a year and contribute $5,000 to your 401k, you're only going to pay taxes on $55,000. Taxes on contributions and investments will grow and be deferred until you withdraw money in retirement. This allows your savings to grow faster than they would in a taxable account. On top of the tax benefits, many employers offer what's called a matching contribution, which can range based on the employer. For instance, if your employer offers a 100% match on up to 5% of your salary and you earn $50,000, contributing $2,500 will earn you an additional $2,500 from your employer. This is free money, so not taking advantage of the match is literally leaving money on the table. Now, there are contribution limits that you've got to be aware of. And in 2025, the contribution limit for 401k is $23,500 if you're under the age of 50. If you're over 50, then you can add an additional $7,500 to that in what's called a catch-up contribution, getting you to $31,000. And now there is an additional catch-up amount that can be added if you're between the ages of 60 and 63. So instead of an additional $7,500, you can now contribute an additional $11,250. Now, most 401ks usually have a limited menu of investment options, and they typically offer a range of mutual funds, including stock funds, bond funds, and target date funds. See, target date funds are really beginner friendly because they automatically adjust your asset allocation to become more conservative as you approach retirement. If your job doesn't provide a 401k, don't worry, you can still save for retirement using individual retirement accounts, IRA. Now let's dive into the two main types of IRA, traditional and Roth IRA. See, an IRA is just a tax advantaged account that you can open, and you can do that on your own without relying on an employer. Now, the key differences between a traditional IRA and a Roth IRA boil down to when you pay taxes and your eligibility. You see, in a traditional IRA, contributions are made with pre-tax dollars if you meet certain income limit, and this reduces your taxable income for the year. Like a traditional 401k, taxes are deferred on the growth, and you'll pay taxes on the withdrawals when you retire. This is typically best for people who expect to be in a lower tax bracket during retirement, or high income earners who may not qualify for Roth contributions. Now, there are limits to how much you can contribute, and in 2025, you can contribute up to $7,000 per year and $8,000 if you're over the age of 50. On the other side, there are Roth IRA. A Roth IRA offers a different set of benefits, prioritizes tax-free growth and withdrawal. See, contributions are made with post-tax dollars, meaning you don't get a tax break right now. However, withdrawals in retirement, including investment growth, are completely tax-free. These are best for young savers who expect to be in a higher tax bracket in retirement. For example, if you're an early career professional with a lower current income, or those individuals who value tax-free income later in life, especially if they anticipate significant investment growth. See, not everyone can contribute to a Roth IRA. In fact, in 2025, if you're a single filer earning less than $150,000, then you can contribute the full amount to a Roth IRA. And if you're married, filing jointly, then the contribution is fully available if your income is below $236,000. Now, if you're a single filer with a modified adjusted gross income between $150,000 and $165,000, or married filing jointly earning between $236,000 and $246,000, you can still contribute, but at a reduced amount. However, if you're earning above that $165,000 as a single filer or $246,000 as a joint filer, then you're not eligible to contribute directly to a Roth IRA. So which one should you choose? The decision between a traditional and a Roth IRA often depends on your current tax situation and future expectations. You see, you'll want to choose a traditional IRA if you're in a higher tax bracket now and want to reduce your taxable income. You expect that your retirement income and tax rate is going to be lower than it is today. You'll choose a Roth if you're in a lower tax bracket now and want tax-free withdrawals in the future. And you have decades of potential investment growth ahead. If you're unsure, maybe consider doing both. Diversifying your types of account can help you have ultimate flexibility when you are in retirement. Now, there are additional considerations for IRAs that you want to consider. For example, required minimum distribution. See, traditional IRAs mandate that withdrawals starting at age 73, while Roth IRAs don't have any sort of required minimum distribution during the account holder's lifetime, and that gives you a little bit more flexibility. On top of that, penalty-free withdrawal. You see, Roth IRAs allow you to withdraw your contributions, now your earnings, anytime without penalty, making them a little bit more flexible for emergency purposes. But then there's also conversions. If you earn too much to contribute directly to a Roth IRA, you can consider a backdoor Roth conversion, where you contribute to a traditional IRA and then convert it to a Roth, or you can do a mega backdoor Roth that can be done using a 401k, which we've done videos on both of those topics that I'll link to right here as well as in the description below. Now, there are a number of strategic tips for maximizing your retirement savings, and the first one is going to be to automate your contributions. Set up automatic transfers to your 401k or IRA to ensure that you're saving consistently. Just start small. If you can't max out your contributions immediately, that's okay. Begin with 5 to 10% of your income and increase it by 1% each year. And if you're over the age of 50, you've got to make sure you're taking advantage of those catch-up contributions, because to take advantage of those higher contribution limits boosts your savings as you approach retirement. And the last thing that you're going to want to make sure you do is that you reassess where you're at every single year. Every year, you should review your contributions, your investment choices, and potential tax advantages to ensure that your strategy aligns with your evolving financial situation. Now, by understanding and utilizing these savings tools, you're taking the crucial first step to securing your financial future. Starting early and making informed choices between 401ks and an IRA can have a transformative impact on your retirement. But let's move on to the second key retirement planning pillar, and that is how investing takes your savings to the next level. Now, one common mistake that people make is they confuse saving with investing. Just because you're saving into a 401k or an IRA doesn't mean that the money is invested. That's like saying just because you're standing on the road, that doesn't mean that you're actually traveling. You have to choose which investment vehicle to take for the ride. Just like with cars on the road, some go slower and are a little safer, others go faster but come with a little bit more risk. So let's break down the 4 most common investment vehicles that you'll likely come across. First one that we're going to dive into is stocks. You've probably heard of these before. When you buy a stock, you're actually purchasing a small piece of the company, making you a partial owner, or what they call a shareholder. Stocks have the potential for higher returns, but come with higher risk. The way they work is that companies issue stock to raise money, and as an investor, you can benefit in one of 2 ways. You can benefit capital gains, which is when the stock price increases and you can sell it for more than you paid, or from dividend. You see, some companies pay a portion of their profits to shareholders in the form of dividend. Now, stocks are considered a higher risk investment because their value fluctuates significantly based on the company's performance, market conditions, and global events. However, historically, the market has provided an average annual return of around 10% over the long term. And then there are bonds. You see, bonds are essentially loans you give to either a government, a municipality, or a corporation in exchange for regular interest payments and a return of your principal when the bond matures. And the way they work is that when you buy a bond, you're agreeing to lend money for a specific period of time at a fixed interest rate. For example, a 10-year US Treasury bond might pay you 3% every single year until it matures. Now, when we're looking at the risk versus reward, bonds are considered a safer vehicle than stocks because they offer predictable returns. However, they generally provide lower returns than stock. Now, the risk varies depending on the issuer. For example, government bonds are a little bit more low risk, especially from stable governments like the US. And then there's corporate bonds, which can be a little bit higher risk, but also a higher potential return depending on the company's creditworthiness. Now, the one thing when investing in any sort of bond or doing anything where you're lending someone money is to make sure that they're going to pay you back. That's where creditworthiness comes into play. Now, the next common investment vehicle is an exchange traded, or ETF as they're commonly called. This is a collection of investments, and they could be stocks or bonds, and they trade on the exchange like an individual stock. They're designed to track the performance of an index, a sector, or an asset class. The way they work is that they are a pool of money from investors to buy a diversified portfolio of assets. For example, an S&P 500 ETF gives you exposure to the 500 largest US companies, and you can buy and sell ETFs throughout the trading day at market prices just like stocks. Now, when looking at the benefits of ETFs, the first one that comes to mind is diversification. This allows you to spread your investments across multiple assets, reducing risk. The other side of it is, on top of being diversified, ETFs generally have lower expense ratios paired to mutual funds. They also give you flexibility because you can trade ETFs throughout the day, unlike mutual funds, which only trade at the end of the day. Now, the last investment vehicle that we'll go through is mutual funds. You see, mutual funds are similar to ETFs in that they pool money from multiple investors to buy a diversified portfolio of assets. However, mutual funds are actively managed by professionals, aimed to outperform their benchmark. Now, the way they work is that when you invest in a mutual fund, you're buying shares in the fund, and the money is used to purchase a mix of stocks, bonds, or other assets. The fund manager actively makes investment decisions on your behalf. So the benefit is that you get professional management. Fund managers handle control all the investment decisions, making mutual funds a hands-off option, do provide diversification like ETFs. Mutual funds do spread your risk and investments across various assets to reduce risk. On top of that, there's also reinvestment, where earnings can automatically be reinvested, helping your investment grow over time. But some of the drawbacks of mutual funds is they do have sometimes higher fees because active management often comes with a higher expense ratio than ETFs, and they're a little bit less flexible. Mutual funds are priced once a day, so you can't trade them during market hours. With all this, how do you build your investment? Well, to create a balanced portfolio that aligns with your retirement goals, consider the following. So with all this, how do you actually build an investment portfolio? Well, to create a portfolio that aligns with your retirement goals, it's important to diversify across asset classes. Use stocks for growth, bonds for stability and income, ETFs or mutual funds for a mix of both. You got to understand your risk tolerance. And as we discussed earlier, it's very important to understand your risk tolerance. And then you also want to make sure that you're checking your portfolio every single year to ensure that it aligns with your goals and your risk tolerance. See, over time, asset classes are going to fluctuate. So when you might have started out at a 60% stock allocation and 40% bonds, and if stocks do really well, you might look up one day and have 80% of your money in stocks and your risk tolerance is completely out of whack. So that's why it's important to always come back to that at least once a year. You see, investing can feel intimidating at first, but with the right knowledge and approach, it's one of the most powerful tools to secure your financial future. By understanding the key investment options like stocks, bonds, ETFs, and mutual funds, you can craft a strategy that meets your needs and helps you reach your retirement goals. And that brings us to the final key retirement planning pillar, which is planning. You see, planning is the time you set to review every aspect of what we went through today. It's a time to reassess your income and your expenses. See if you are on track to your financial goals, or do you need to add to your financial goals? It's a time to see if your risk tolerance has changed, or if you need to modify your investment strategy. We're just scratching the surface on everything that gets done with a comprehensive plan. Just keep in mind that everything we are going through today is just the beginner's version. This is Retirement 101. During planning sessions, that is where you can dig into the most advanced aspects of finance to maximize every dollar that you have. Now, there are so many ways you can get help with your retirement. Just by watching this video, you're starting on the right. If you're looking for much more personalized help, that's what our firm's here for. For going on 20 years now, I've personally been helping people plan their retirement. And if you want to just see where you should start or just need help, use the link in the description below and schedule some time with a member of our team. Let's put together a comprehensive financial plan to help you achieve your goals. Now, if you're watching this and you're ready to take your retirement seriously, I want to leave you with 3 actions to take off. First is set realistic goals. Break down your retirement goal into smaller, achievable milestones. For example, aim to save $10,000 within 3 years. Then increase that goal as your income slowly grows. Start small and build momentum. Even if $20 a week, it adds up over time. Over 30 years with a 7% rate of return, that's over $100,000. The next step you need to take is automating your contributions, because this eliminates the temptation to skip saving. And the last thing you want to do is make sure that you are regularly reviewing your plan, because life changes. Whether it's marriage, kids, or job shifts, they can all affect your finances. So revisit your plan annually to ensure that it aligns with your current financial goals. See, retirement planning may seem complicated, but breaking it down into clear, actionable steps makes it manageable. So start small, stay consistent, and let the power of time work in your favor. So I've got to ask you, what's one step that you're going to take today and one action you're going to put in place that's going to kickstart your journey? Share it in the comments below, and don't forget to check out our next video on 8 things that you need to do after 50 for a happier life. I'll see you there.